in my community, one of the big things that I always say is we need to do some sort of custom outreach, custom videos where like we build part of the system and then we pitch it to them. One of the simplest and easiest ways to improve the effectiveness of outreach is just getting your outreach seen more. Ooh. N8N dropped their collab with AirTalk. Now you have built-in AI agent browser usage in N8N, and it basically solves the last mile problem that so many of us were having with automations, where you don't need to store intermediate data in a Google Sheet anymore to do some form fill.
It's freaking awesome. Like actually having AI in browsers that can push buttons, this could be actually quite powerful, I think. Yeah, France is cool, man. First place we went to was cool. I booked an Airbnb. I didn't realize it was a stay and host Airbnb. So she was kind of hanging around a bit, and I was like, oh, I think she's actually staying with us tonight. And then so I was like, I guess this is cool. And then after that, dude, I was like, okay, we'll just book a hotel. So hence why I'm in this hotel now. I was like, I'm not an Airbnb at the moment. So she was really lovely, but it was a funny experience. Dude, cause you moved recently, did you? Any funny travel experiences with that?
Like with the Airbnb stuff where, like there's a host with you. I had to do that in San Fran because it's like illegal down in San Fran not to do it with the person in the house. So that was kind of interesting. They were like around, like it was still a door separating us, but that was that. When I was a lot poorer and I lacked the means and I had to travel somewhere, I would always grab an Airbnb that was like, a guest suite or whatever, which was obviously just less comfortable. Thank God I don't have to do that shit anymore.
It's like, I think like as you like get bigger, like your spending muscle doesn't increase with that. Like you have to like remind yourself to increase your spending muscle with stuff like this. So like, I don't know if you found this like, versus maybe when you like university, like to when you did like your first business and stuff, you've got to like increase that over time.
Yes, absolutely. I 100% agree. And you have to be very conscious with it as well.
Yeah. I mean, like, I was like, so dude, if you're still drinking those, what do you call it? Like, ready-made coffees, dude, where you pour the hot water in, dude, it's time to upgrade that, Nick.
Yeah. Dude, I got so many extraordinarily poor habits. It's not even funny, but it's just a hand-me-down.
What's your poorest habit that you've got, do you think? What's the poorest habit you've got?
I mean, the other day,
frugal habit, would you say? The most frugal.
I would like every time I go shopping at the grocery store or whatever, like I am always bargain bin hunting. I mean, I see like a can of tuna and it's like, oh, that one's like 67 cents. And then I get it despite the fact that it probably has 100 times the mercury content. But I'm like, I'm not going to pass up that deal, man. It doesn't matter how much money I end up making, dude.
You're good. You're sucker for a good deal.
Dude, these Jack Links sweet and hot beef jerky, which I'm sure are giving me 7 types of cancer as we speak. I saw them at the freaking corner store and it was like $2.97 or something. I'm like, dude, I've never seen Jack Links for $2.97. Of course I'm going to buy a bunch. So I'm traveling right now. I'm in Montreal and I just bought like 3 packs of them. That little stuff like that. You know what I mean? I can't pass up a good deal.
You can't pass up a good deal. I know. I'm a sucker for a good deal. It's also like, there's been stuff there, like I could buy it, but on the principle, I can't. I've got like a mental max I can spend on certain things. And if it's above that, I'm like, I want it, but I just can't. In my mind, I'm like, this is not right, man. This is not right. And it was like the last time I rented, I thought rent prices were here. And then like in the last 5 years, they've done like this. And I was like, really? I couldn't freaking believe it. So it's just like, in my mind, like minimum wage in the UK, like when I worked in McDonald's, bro, it's £4.98 is what they paid me. Which means some guy said, let's pay them £5 an hour. Some guy said, no, let's go £4.98. Like in my mind, that was like, now minimum wage is like 12 quid. I'm like, dude, everyone's like rich, right? It's like, no, dude, like it's just insane. So I still feel exactly the same way, dude. Like you need to like emotionally graduate with this sort of stuff. It's a wild one. Yeah.
Nobody does it for you. And I find that there's like no organic habituation. Like eventually you just have to decide, I'm going to spend more money on something that may have seemed silly to me like, 4 or 5 years ago, but I'm just going to do it. Then you do it. Then you realize, okay, it's really not that big of a deal. Wealth is more about the ratio between your inflow to your outflow. And then you get better. But holy shit, it was that hard initially, man.
It is hard, dude. It's actually a good point. And actually, I've been thinking about this idea of, and it'll dovetail into the AI thing, but like, because it's a business side, it's like, your non-negotiables, which are the set of things where, because the whole idea is, you crack deals so that you can have the ultimate freedom, your golden like life scenario, whatever that looks like for everybody else. But it's like you can access the thing you want while building the thing you're doing. But it's also like when you take chips off the table, not in the sense of just spend what you're making, but in terms of like, what are like those non-negotiable activities or things that you do that you now, that maybe when you're like 22, you're willing to trade. But now you're 32, you're like, okay, I'm actually going to ring fence like this special protected zone of activities that I will never compromise on. And it's like, I've been thinking about that recently of like, because I can always be making more content or cracking deals. And I crack a lot of deals. You crack a lot of deals. So it's like, we couldn't, like Elon Musk had this funny thing of like, if you think about like his time in Tesla, each hour spent could lead to a $50 million swing in the share price. So by that logic, he never actually stops working on Tesla, right? So it's like, at what point do you like say, okay, I've got to take an hour back for the gym or something? Do you know what I mean? I think it's a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think it's all value system stuff too. It's also what you want out of life, and I think that you could see the priorities that Elon Musk had, at least in that specific instance, reflected in just like his health, his sanity for the most part. Just like fucking, how that guy like wakes up and goes to bed, and his blood cortisol levels, and so on and so forth. And like I think for a lot of people, it's an unconscious thing. They just start doing it, and then they just never really ask themselves, why am I doing what I'm doing? Like, case in point, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine out here, and I was thinking, like, okay, realistically, I'm pulling like between 10 to 12-hour days for this business, and so much of it is inherently interesting and enjoyable that, it just naturally makes me want to do more and more and more. But I also think about it as like, okay, there are some parts of this that are not inherently interesting and enjoyable. And some of these things I just have to do. But I could probably cut out like a big chunk of the work that I do, like maybe like 20% or so, and like work fewer hours. And like, would I have fewer results? Like maybe, but I would also buy back like a big chunk of my life, and there's probably diminishing returns and stuff like that. So, like that's not a conversation that I think Mr. Musk would have with himself, or like Jensen Huang at NVIDIA or whatever, because he's come out multiple times and said as much. And yeah, like, I think it's just a values trade-off, right? Like, I mean, let's say like starting a family is important to you. Like if we're just, grown-ups here, you only have so many hours in the day, right? Like an hour that you spend with your son or daughter is an hour that you are not going to necessarily be able to show up and be your best at with your business. And like you could try and juggle these two things, but like, in some respect, there is always going to be a trade-off. And I feel like that's just part of like becoming, emotionally mature. This whole idea of like, you can have it all. Like I do understand it. And I think you can have a lot more than most people think. But, at some point, push does need to come to shove, and you do need to realize that there are going to be some trade-offs you're going to make, like with your lifestyle, with your health, with like your sanity, with your freaking, I don't know, man, your coronary plaques.
The coronary plaques, dude. Yeah, get those arteries plaque free. But what's funny, dude, I started tracking my time recently. And what has become okay, I think before you answer the questions of like, what are the big trade-offs? Like, do I take my son to the baseball game? Am I going to say I'm going to be there on Friday, little Jimmy, and you never turn up? Or are you like, but in reality, if you actually get your day-to-day stack, it's like, dude, you spent 4 hours on Instagram, you fuck. Like, let's cut. It's like, there's probably like some really like low-hanging fruit you could just chop that most people don't even realize. Yeah. Which is why you have those redefining moments of what hard work is. Yeah. I think it's cool. Like, optimization has to be a mindset. Like you must treat your life as a system that you're continually fixing. It's like with all systems and numbers, like you never actually, it's like your diet. It's like investment strategy. You never set and forget. You can for a period of time, but if you're not like eyes over the system of like time allocation, and treat your time as an investment, which it is, then you are going to get slack 100%. It's the same with expenses, right? Like I remember the first business I did, there's a quote, I think it was, the guy of KFC, not the Colonel, it might be Burger King. I don't know. Anyway, some big company. The point is the quote, which was that like expenses are like, it'd be funny if it was the Colonel actually. The Colonel said, like expenses like fingernails, they're great. You have to be on them like regularly. So it's like where you find the time in your diary to do the systems thinking bit, like, and you don't get limited by that.
Well said. Another thought I had that was related to this is this idea of your margins are too high. So hear me out here. My margins are like ridiculously high. We're into the into the 90s. Depending on the specific products, some of my margins are like 98%. I think your margins can be too high. If you think about it logically, like if your margins are that high, then you're obviously generating a massive amount of profit, meaning that either you're generating a ton of revenue and you have like some low fixed expense, or you're generating a little bit of revenue, you have basically no expense. But in either case, if the former case, then you could probably buy back a significant amount of your time by trading some of that money for time and then reducing your margin to become more like globally effective. And then the second case, you could probably spend some of that money just to grow your revenue in the first place. So I think there is such a thing as like too much margin. I think there's such a thing as like a healthy margin, but the healthy margin is not the max margin. I think the healthy margin in like a growing business, depending on vertical, it's probably somewhere between like 50 to like 80%. And then if you are like under it, then obviously you need to trim the hell out of those fingernails, like get your shit together. But if you're over it, it's also like you kind of have to have that conversation with yourself. Like, what are we doing here? Like, are you building like something that grows, or are you just doing this because you are trying to squeeze onto every last dollar? So that's something that I'm actually going through right now. Jack and I talked about how we're going to structure the podcast. And one of the ways that we consider structuring the podcast was to have a section at the beginning where we just chat a little bit about like where we're at and what our businesses are doing, because it might be interesting to viewers. And we're playing around with it. We will probably continue to do so. But that's kind of my piece on that. Like a big thing that I'm going through this week is just trying to figure out, how can I reliably reduce my margin to increase general life satisfaction and also business effectiveness?
I love that, dude. And actually, dude, I think like margin trade for personal life is good, because I think the happier that you and I are, I think the better we do. Number one, like even when I'm like I've had it before where I've missed a workout to do something, but then after I do the workout later, your energy levels are incredible. I actually had this margin conversation with myself a couple months ago, and I was like, I'm deliberately going to trade, because it's like optimize for high margin is amazing, and it's almost, you feel like you're losing ground when you deliberately go down, because it's like it's a psychological thing of like, people think it's crazy, but it's like it's also really great, right? And it's like, but it's like you're almost consciously saying, I am going to go lower to invest for growth in the future, so lower today for more in the future. But I had this is going to sound like this maybe like the most obvious thing in the planet for everybody else, but like for me, this like analogy really clicked. This idea that we invest in like index funds, right? Tesla, Apple, global trackers, whatever, with the view they deliver like 10% ROI. But we're not as quick to invest in ourselves or our education. Like our communities, for example, are value per dollar, and I say this with 100% honesty, is crazy. I paid, it's £9,000 to do a year at university. You're not getting anything. It's actually outrageous, right? And if you think about what ROI do we get in investing in ourselves, like, is probably more than 10% compounding annual growth rate, right? So it's almost like when you are thinking about investing your money or keeping it in an account or something, it's like, would I get a high return if I invested that in me? You probably would, right? So it's not about putting like $1 million into yourself, but you could probably beat the market.
What do you think that return on investment is? Obviously, it depends on what it is that you are investing in with respect to yourself. But like, if an index fund is 7 to 10% year over year historically, I feel like yourself, equivalent pound for pound is like 1,000% year over year.
It is.
But like, what does that actually mean though? Like, what is investing?
So a good example is I bought Ed Lawrence's YouTube thing. It's that I saw that as like, that was like a higher ticket item, but my logic on that was, being better at YouTube is probably gonna make me more money in the future. And it's like very obvious, but it's like, yeah, I mean, would I get more money putting that like, call it 10K for simplicity's sake, into an index fund, returning $1,000 a year, or myself? Like, could I make more than $1,000 with the knowledge? Probably, right? There's probably some nugget in there. Like I'm being reductionist, right? Like if that was of the spectrum of outcome from it, if I bias it towards the worst possible, it probably would do. And it's also weird, dude, because you talk about like, you sell stuff, you sell businesses, you do things. Realistically, it's just a number on a sheet of paper somewhere. You never actually the number goes up, but when you invest and buy either knowledge or invest for growth, you actually see it in front of you. So it's like I say, it's probably like paradoxically the most obvious thing in the world, and like everyone listening might be like, Jack, this is like third grade like math or something. But when I kind of analogized it with investing in an index fund, for me it just made more sense. So that could be knowledge, it could be team, it could be anything. I mean, like one of the coolest for us, bro, is a executive assistant. Actually, that was amazing. Like this hotel I'm in, I was very fortunate that she booked that. I said, hey, could you find a hotel that meets these requirements? And she was like, I'll do it right now. And I was like, wow, that was freaking awesome. So like that was like, because like you're so used to just doing it yourself, and it just takes like stuff off the table. So that's like a kind of general, like the more efficient Jack Roberts can be, the more cool stuff happens, you know?
That's true. I also think about it in terms of health as well, and like your focus. You know, one thing that a good friend of mine mentioned to me, my old business partner at Left Click, he's like, you know, if I were you, I would treat yourself like a high performance athlete. What opportunities do you have for coaching in your own life? Like get like a high performance, like CEO executive coach, and, you know, have their program where they check in with you once a day or once a week or whatever the hell. He's like, if you invest, you know, $100,000 in that next year, like your improved focus as a proportion of your total revenue will probably be like 30% or something. You'll make like millions more dollars. You should do it. And I was just like, I don't know. So I'm still kind of dragging my feet on that. But I think that's a good example of something that you could do. And it's more so just like, it's also, weirdly enough, your own mental buy-in to the thing. When you mentally buy into a coach, then you're so much more likely to actually do something, as so many people in Maker School, you know, for instance, know about, your community know about. It's all like buy-in, right?
But people don't, so when I launched my AI automations with Jack, right, one of the first things I did is said, hey, look, if you genuinely can't afford this, I don't want the money to be a reason why you don't learn this cool stuff, right? So like email me and I'll hook you up. I hooked up like 10 people, and Nick, they were like, you think you've seen engagement, Jack? We're going to blow your mind. Yeah, we're going to turn up on every video. We're going to watch it every single course. We're going to be the best case studies you've ever seen in your life. We're going to define the case study. How many of them do you think actually did something with it? Yeah, I give you, it's close to zero. Completely disappeared, like nothing. And like that was an unfortunate truth. I didn't want that to be true. I wanted it to be true that if you give people the shot, that they'll do it. But the reality is there's a psychological driver here that says if you don't buy in, there's no cost for you, you won't do it. You just don't value it the same. It's just the way that we work. So when you buy into a program like my community, your community, you are, I think the changing of money, like we don't need your money, but it's like, I do genuinely personally believe that when money does change hands, you're now committed to actually do the thing. And so I don't think that's a coincidence. I think if it was free and everyone says, I'd love to get in and just do it for free, I actually genuinely don't think you'd follow it. I really don't.
This reminds me a lot of that unfortunate truth about UBI that we were chatting about a couple of episodes before, where like, you know, I would love this to be true, but then we do see like market decreases in productivity, life satisfaction, people's willingness to actually do things in general. It's just one of those things where like, yeah, man, you can't just let people in for free, because then they're just going to freaking do nothing all day. Like you have to have some sort of price. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to launch a free thing ever again, honestly. Doesn't attract the sort of people that I like, doesn't attract the sort of energy that I like. There's a reason why it's like literally every one of my videos. Did I tell you that Sam Evans did a breakdown of my the Maker School stuff? And he was like scratching, you know, him and oh geez, I forget the other fellow's name. Andrew, I think. Yes, Mr. Kirby. And they were both doing it. It's like, okay, we're gonna like let's check out his funnel, right? It was just like a YouTube video and then a paid community, and it's like, wow, I feel like he's just putting the CTA inside of his community, like to you know, YouTube to Maker School. Anyway, I was thinking about having like a much more involved funnel, right? Like with like a free community with like all these tiers and then like some paid upsell thing and like do all this fun stuff. And I was like, no, man, I don't want to deal with that shit. Just I want people that pay, that can pass some minimum motivational threshold. Because obviously, one, I like making money. Like, let's not get that wrong. Yeah, but two, like I like it more when people put some money in, because then they're just more serious. They show up. They're more accountable. This isn't a joke to them. They actually put their money where their mouth is. And yeah, you know, so on and so forth. So
I agree, dude. And I flirted with this whole free school community thing as well, because my logic was, obviously it's email capture, it's great, you can kind of like, you know, but let's be honest, everybody knows. Let's be honest, people are not stupid. People are very, very smart. And they know for a fact, when you're in a free community, they know the deal. You are going to get rinsed like a wet towel for every ounce of like, can we sell them to our paid community? And personally, dude, I mean, like, my logic was, I didn't want to do, and people do free school communities very successfully. I didn't want to put something out that wasn't high quality. I didn't want to kind of have like a community that I wasn't like really involved in, and paid upsell. So that's why we kept, I mean, that might not be the right move. It might be the case that if we did a free community, oh my gosh, that'd be like the best thing ever. I don't know what the opposite's like. But yeah, we're one of the few ones as well that never did a free. We did paid exclusive only.
Yeah, I think it just works good. There's some nuance there, like you mentioned about email lists and stuff, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not making too much money off my email list right now. I feel like it's a character play. Like the guys that really like you and the guys that really like me, they just tend to like really like us. And I don't know. I feel like I capture a pretty big percentage of all of the guys that would otherwise actually want to convert just through YouTube content. I might be strategically off here. I don't know, but I know
It's
you're
like, yeah,
experimenting with other.
what are they
You're
going to
doing
get?
newsletters, right?
So some people have that email as the free school community. Actually, that's how they function it. But it's like it is true. What value are you getting from a free community? That you just put that on YouTube, bro. I think it works well if you're converting from Instagram because they're kind of like more. So it's like get it instead of um a webinar. It's like a course. They do the course and they leave. So in that context, maybe. But yeah, dude, I mean, like, it's funny, dude. These are good conversations to have, I think. These are really good conversations to have.
Yeah. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think short form content, just because you build so much less character, you have so much less nurturing, you do need some form of thing. So that's what I think I was missing there. Yeah, good thinking.
Yeah, dude, I freaking love this. Dude, we probably just made $100,000 right there. Someone needs to write this stuff. Write this stuff down. Write that down. That's a good idea. Dude, a funny little anecdote people might find valuable, then we'll do some AI stuff, is that, what's really interesting to me is that like people really overcomplicate like the client acquisition stuff. And I've had so many meetings recently where like I'm a willing and wanting buyer, but they've in the way they presented it have made me do too much cognitive investment to actually get it. And I was like, do not engage my system to thinking. It needs to kind of just be a real simple, like, one of the guys in my group, said like, what do you think of this email? And like, I'm like, literally, Nick, I'm scrolling down this email. And it's an average email. I said like, imagine this is going to be consumed in the context of 10 minutes, 100 emails. They're busy, they're skimmed, they're not read. It just needs to kind of like get the point across and have a very clear next step. But it's probably, I've seen it, I'm sure you've seen it as well, bro. It's probably so freaking common now that like people aren't thinking about the context in which content is consumed and receive it. And there's been things I've wanted to buy, but I'm like, it's probably cool. I just can't spend 30 minutes trying to figure it out. I can't. I don't know. And if you may find out in your buying decisions before.
Yeah, 100%. I think that a big chunk of this is the person trying to sell you the thing just has not really lived a day in your shoes. I feel like it demonstrates inexperience with like somebody that is actually busy running a successful business. You know, one thing that I see a lot of is like younger people that join my my groups and then they try and sell something, and then they'll create some outreach, and then they'll be like, hi, my name is Peter. I'm a university graduate at blah, 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 and I just did all this really cool stuff, and I just got sponsored to do this thing, and I just got sponsored. And all I'm thinking is like, hey, man, like anybody that's important and actually making money, they don't care about any of that. They don't care about you. You know, like this is it's probably even if you didn't tell me you were just graduating or you're from school or something, like this is the clearest signal that like you haven't actually operated a successful business, because you're not actually capable of putting yourself in the person's mindset. Like, you know, to be frank, nobody cares about you or the fact that you're in school or whatever. They only care about what you can do for them. So just cut out all that stuff. Get down to that one sentence where you say what you were actually going to do for them, and literally say, hey, I will do this. Thanks, Nick. You know, like the penalty is so much stronger.
Somebody highlight guy. Yeah. Dude, that's so true. But it's like that's like an experience thing. Like, dude, have you seen the rise of the 19-year-old millionaires? Like, who like grew up like incubated on like Hormozy content, and they follow like the kind of principles. I do think there's a value in having commercial experience in a business, just like from a soft skill point of view, like being able to have conversations with like just get I don't want to say politics, but I think if you never do the like, that's all I'd say. I think there's a value in that in that finesse. I don't think it's like you need a little bit of dark magic. Not too much, but a little bit. You need to wield the dark arts a little bit.
Dark side of the forest type shit. So Sidious was right. Sorry, Sidious was right.
I use it not to become a Sith, but to know how to fight the Siths myself.
Ooh, you could take that logic very far, my friend.
You could do, man.
Destroy the monsters. I must become a monster.
This is how I justify all my crazy behavior, dude. This is
crazy behaviors. What have you done, Jack? The people need to know.
this is for the after hours version of the podcast. But dude, tell me, dude, what's happening in AI this week, man? Have we got some interesting news stories developing, man? Anything fresh from your side?
I'm putting on the AI glasses here. So, yeah,
Oh,
I
we
think.
didn't do a thing. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh yeah. now that we're done talking about our own
No,
businesses,
that's it, man.
now
So let's have a look at what we're dealing with today in the world of AI.
we're doing quite a bit here. I'm not entirely sure. Well, what do we got over here on the sheet?
I've got one here, dude.
Okay.
We've got more stuff on content scraping. People aren't very happy about that. BBC filing lawsuit.
N8N dropped their collab with AirTop. Now you have built-in AI agent browser usage in N8N, assuming you use the AirTop integration. Have you heard about this?
Dude, this is breaking news, dude.
It's sick, man. Dude, it's really cool. And it basically solves the last mile problem. And I know I'm not reading this off of anything, but it basically solves the last mile problem that so many of us were having with automations, where like you have all this stuff and you scrape some data source or whatever, and then you need a person to actually upload it or fill out a form or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Well, this like allows you to interact with the internet and kind of do that last mile problem where you don't need to store intermediate data in a Google Sheet anymore to do some form fill. It's like, no, man, you actually just like send it to the agent and you give it natural language prompts, and it doesn't do a great job every time, but it does like an okay job, like 70% of the time. And if it doesn't do the job right, then guess what? You just run it again and over and over and over and over again. It's pretty cool. They published a video the other day.
I'll check. So it's not RPA. It's kind of like browser agent stuff. So it's like kind of like an agent in the browser. It's like pressing buttons and stuff. Or is it just
100%, dude? Yep. I think it manipulates the document object model. I just sent it over to you. I think it manipulates the document object model. It's pretty sick. And like it uses AI to feed in the entire DOM into the thing, and then it like makes a decision based off it, and it just repeats over and over and over again. Alternatively, it may be trained off of just like mouse clicks and stuff. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
Okay, that is interesting. Okay, I can see that. Okay, oh yeah, well, can now browse with like him, dude. Actually, this is a really interesting thing on RPA, like the kind of robot process automation stuff, where like you're landing on a web page, like it's okay. So think of this as like for everyone watching, like how you can force. So we did this before, right? Where like my first text, we had APIs. And so we'll either go the easy way or we'll go the hard way. But it's happening, right? And it's like either they give us what we need, or what you can do, like RPA, is like if they've got contact forms, you can actually just like create these robots that just push the buttons and enter information, do things without you even touching it. That kind of browser-led automation is freaking awesome. Like actually having AI in browsers that can push buttons, do crazy things, it unlocks something new. The first iteration we saw a few months ago was a bit lame. But if this is actually a step change is working well, dude, I think this does kind of fix that final mile of the problems that we're talking about, Nick. I think this could be actually quite powerful, I think.
Yeah, I think it just opens up an entirely new playing field. Like one big issue that I always used to have was people would be like, hey, I want to scrape some data from X source. And then I want to apply some transformation to this data. And then we need to fill in some form with this data, right? Think about like some underwriting process or something like that. So what would you do? The only thing you could actually realistically do is you would scrape the data. After you're done scraping the data, you would add it to some database like Google Sheets or Monday or ClickUp. And then you'd be like, okay, great. So now a human has to do the actual form stuff. You know, because like most of the time, not all these services have hidden APIs. Well, now you can actually do that. To me, it's like, this is like the plug, man. It's like the universal serial. It's like the universal serial bus that you just plug everything in, and then like it allows us to, you know, like we had everything up until that final one, and then you always needed a person to come in and do the plugging in. But now it's like we actually have something that's pretty good.
Well, dude, it's funny. When I did this in my business, we had two options. One is outsource. There's a data issue that couldn't do it. Second one is to do it ourselves, time consuming, low leverage. We built robots to do it. The AI doing it, though, I think what's going through my head, I'd need some browser recording tool to actually validate the action steps that it's done. That would be I don't know if it has that or not, but if we can actually validate the buttons it's pressing, I think that's really, really cool. Because you can run into also, I'm sure you know, like crazy things where like if you get customers involved, things happen. But what's the biggest use case you'd use it for, man? What would you use this for, do you think?
Yeah, like form fills are really big. Let me give you an example. Like I think a big chunk of the modern economy right now is all like data entry, honestly. It is like doing that last mile problem. It is basically just taking the data and then using it to upload something. So like, not all these things have APIs. First of all, obviously there's like the big legacy government systems and shit like that. That's obviously massive, right? Or like legacy companies, and they're all off these old ass software platforms where they don't want to touch anything because once they touch it, they break it. But this and technologies like that will solve like a general case, so you don't have to build specific things for each of them. But then more generally, dude, think about this. Like, you ever use like a WordPress contact form? So like WordPress contact form, you make it and put it on your website, and like 3 minutes later, you have like 8,000 emails offering you boner pills. So the reason why is because they take your browser history, Jack. No, I'm just kidding.
They know. I thought, how many talking?
Yeah. I don't know, man. But yeah, so the reason why is because like somebody created a script forever ago to like, literally sniff out that contact form all over the internet. And then if it finds a little code snippet with the contact form, then it fills it in according to some really specific thing. But like, that only works for that particular contact form. So use a different contact form, then nobody can get your data. Well, now guess what? Like in outreach, dude, you could hit people like 10 different ways now. I'm thinking about how I'm going to use it. And I always think about things in terms of cold outreach, but like, instead of just sending them an email and instead of sending them like DMs or whatever, you also hit them with a contact form fill, which will probably double give them the email. That'd be huge, man. Also for PR purposes, do you know how many of these like companies only have contact forms that you could fill or some sort of support inquiry or whatever? Dude, speaking of support inquiries, you could automate all that stuff with shit like this. That'd be crazy. There's a way for you to load a session with AirTop so you can like feed in your cookie and stuff like that. So you're actually already signed into the service. You could do any sort of automation, dude. Like you could completely automate Upwork, for instance. Any sort of request for proposal platform like Upwork, you could completely automate. You could do things like, I don't know, like when you want to hire somebody for a service, you have some need, it goes out on Fiverr and then it like scrapes a list of all the people on Fiverr automatically for you. And then it like, pumps it in through some intelligence. And then it like picks like the top 3 people and sends them all quotes with like, trials for work. Like, dude, you could totally multiply your leverage with this stuff. I'm stoked.
You could do that. There's just some beautiful ideas and you could crush it with that. Dude, essentially we have arrived at the level now, people need to realize, where it is AI talking to AI. Like we talked about before, AIs are creating CVs, AIs are assessing the CVs, AI is writing the job applications in Fiverr, and AI is choosing them. Funny, interesting one on the Fiverr and Upwork stuff, dude, is have you tried to hire on Upwork recently? Because it is, dear Mr. Nicholas Zarev, we are absolutely profoundly gracious for the opportunity to apply for your position of chief developer. I have 25 years in this, and it's like, it is a sea of chaos, dude. Like, you still need that like intelligence. Like, funny, I posted on Upwork, bro, and like I hide them when they DM me on Instagram. So it's like this is cool tech. I think no one will use it. The ones that do use it will use it probably like generically. Yeah. But I think if you can like apply like your like intelligence to it, like find the right candidates, then just follow up on Instagram. Because the thing is, like, if you post like you want an AI agency client or something, like Upwork is a pain in the ass platform. People don't live on Upwork. But then if you follow up on Instagram or email and be like, dude, I saw your post. By the way, dude, here's some free freaking value. Go and crush it. This browser automation is really freaking sick. Like, you can do stuff like that. So you can apply some like brain and business context to it. You can freaking crush it, dude.
Yeah, dude, I'm really glad you said that, because one of the simplest and easiest ways to improve the effectiveness of outreach is just getting your outreach seen more. And like so many people just never get their shit seen. So in my community, one of the big things that I always say is we need to do some sort of custom outreach, custom videos, custom thing where like we build part of the system and then we pitch it to them. And this works really well, obviously, assuming the person actually clicks the damn thing. But so few people actually click the damn thing. So what is the bottleneck here? It's getting your shit seen. If you've already spent 5 or 10 or 15 minutes creating some custom thing, then you just multiply the probability that it gets seen by not only hitting them up on that, you hit them up on some other platform, you hit them up on Instagram, you follow them and then send them a DM on this and that. If every one of these platforms has like a 50% probability of like somebody seeing your shit, you can go from 50% on one to like 92.5% by just like having 4 platforms mathematically. So just hit them up on all of them and like your shit gets seen. And then all the time you spent doing the custom stuff gets seen and used. And then your conversion rate's through the roof. I'm so stoked about shit like this. Oh,
dude, people are too platform. I've got to do email. I've got to do this. It's like, dude, broaden your horizons, my man. Dude, what would be cool, I think, with this agent, actually, so if we have browser actually, dude, to be honest with you, I know the lady in the red dress is the sass, right? I know we both looked at that lady in the red dress and had some thoughts. But to be honest with you, dude, you look at the Boldonu, you look at Lovable, these guys where you're building applications with AI. Browser AI, I think, I don't know if it's developed enough to be a category, but I definitely, if you think of user behavior, people
Mm.
don't spend time building applications. They do spend time on online. If you just strip out all the entertainment aspect of it and you look at the work part of it, um, because like if you think about level one as being your browser summary, I'm in a web page, ChatGPT summarize this, do this. Deploying agents to go forth and browse and collect information to enrich what you're doing in your portal. I actually think enrichment would be a subcategory of that, where like based on what I'm looking at, it enriches it. So I think this whole browser thing, dude, I can see that really taking off. The question is, how do you reach your Mrs. Higgins on 72 Maple Avenue, who is 45 years old and isn't into AI tech? Like, what's her use case? How do you reach mass market with this stuff beyond like your early adopters?
Yeah, that's a good question. 72 Higgins Avenue, huh? I'm
Maple
gonna
Avenue.
Google that just in case.
Yeah. Imagine I just doxed this. She's
Jack's
actually
talking about his grandma or something, and he's like, "Oh shit, I hope nobody." um, yeah, I mean, like that. It's coming for her one way or another. That's for sure. She's not gonna have a choice.
you can't get
One
away
of the
from it.
other use points here is that like AI is coming for everybody's jobs, right? And so Amazon, Google, these big multi-billion-dollar corporations. I won't say they like unified and made some big unified announcement, but they've all made announcements sometime in the last couple of weeks talking about how like, hey, you guys got to know that we're going to see some profound economic shifts happening here very quickly because AI is just capable of doing like a lot of things like this. And now, with like N8N and AirTop, for instance, like we are solving that last mile problem. So be damn careful. So I mean, like things are going to come for that woman one way or another. I mean, I don't know. And also, like, do we want to sell to that woman? I'm not really sure.
Probably
Does she have
not.
money to
No.
spend? She have, yeah.
Is she,
She
is she the
just
right customer, dude? I don't think she
Benjamins
does.
in them pantaloons. I don't know.
Maybe she does. No, it's all under the mattress right now, actually. We get access to
Interesting.
the mattress money. Yeah, dude, I think it's a really good point, actually. I think, like, obviously everything goes with the technology adoption curve. I mean, I spend a lot of time talking about niche, to be honest.
Mm.
And I'll be frank, bro. I remember when I did my first business, I didn't really think about niche until much later. You kind of like, because like who your customer is such a good question, actually. Like, and it's like, actually, it's just so people are so, and you should have a bias to action, but actually sometimes like it's like less speed, more haste sometimes. And like who even is the customer, or like what is this business and what business should we be in, are questions you don't really get. It's like what always makes me laugh is like first time founders that are really preoccupied with an idea. I remember being in the business once and someone said, "Oh, we just secured a website." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Like, what is it?" And she's like, "Oh, I can't tell you what it is." Um, it's like, because we just got the domain. We were able to secure the domain, and I don't want you stealing the idea. And I was like, okay, like, and it's so funny. I swear, Nick, she wouldn't even tell me what the website was called. Like,
I have a feeling.
I've got 4 hours a day in my just waiting for a new opportunity, and I'm like,
My God, dude, you could spin that and make $1 billion unicorn out of it. No
she's like,
problem. Whatever's on that website.
yeah, it made me laugh. Actually, did. Dude, did you see that Midjourney's dropped their video creator
I
thing?
did. Yeah. That's huge.
Because that's heating up now, right, dude? Seed dance. Have you played much with the seed dance thing?
Seed Dance?
Amazing.
No, I haven't.
Actually.
I have not.
Yeah,
Seed Dance is from ByteDance, I take it, which is that's the Chinese model.
Tiki Talkie, man. Yeah, Tiki
Yeah.
Talkie. I think the thing I'm noticing, dude, with these technologies, sometimes it's cool tech in search of an application, and it's not necessarily immediately obvious. And therein lies some of the opportunity, right? Like that early adoption kind of find stuff. I don't think people are making millions by posting this stuff on TikTok. In fact, I know they're not. So it's like as the cost goes down, use cases go up exponentially. Like there was a really good conversation around, if you look at Google search, a couple of months ago, it decreased for the first time in the last like 15 to 20 years, like on a monthly basis.
Jesus.
But because, yeah, and I think in part people were initially going to social media because they wanted like authentic people talking to them. So you'd Google like, oh, how do I change a tire? I would probably just go to YouTube. I wouldn't even use Google for that, right?
Yeah.
Unless you know how to change a tire like I do, which I don't, by the way. But But like people are, you chat GPT something now, right? So like you're kind of defecting traffic away from Google. But like I think net queries are going up because the quality is faster. You're able to ask more intelligent follow-up questions. It's like you're way more efficient. So your net questions go up like overall.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. So net question volume goes up because people are just for information.
Yeah, information exchange is increasing. Yeah, like
Right.
you're gaining more information more quickly. Like before, if you Googled like best coffee shop in Paris, you got 10 ads, you've got SEO garbage and slop to work through, and it's like 15 minutes before you even find out the hell's going on. Now it's like it's obviously this option right here.
Right. Yeah. And then the bottleneck changes from what is the information to how is the best way to organize and curate that information. And like that's where the point of value comes from, which is what they're solving. So I get what you're saying. That's a cool point. I think that it kind of hit me when, God, I think I was like going on a date or something forever ago and asked some silly question. And then the girl went on TikTok and looked it up. And I was like, what the?
Did she, bro?
Like, excuse me? Yeah. I was like, Jesus, honey. How old are you again? Like, can I see your ID? You know? But yeah, like, I thought about it. And it was actually like a better source for that information. Like, you got more of it. It was some travel thing, travel destinations. And like, yeah, it was like, 5 things in X, Y, and Z place. And I was like watching it. I'm like, like informational density wise, like I probably got more of the question that I was actually asking as opposed to me trying to formulate the question in a way that I need that Google would be able to answer it. Like I actually probably got better information here. I got like full video, that was like overlaid and cut pretty quickly, but like I got the vibe of the location. I got like a quick little snapshot on the menu, but that's not the only thing that's important to me. Do you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, 100%. I couldn't agree with that more. Yeah, that is interesting actually. But this is also why like context is important, which I don't think is fully solved yet in a convenient way. This idea that it knows everything about you. So when I say good coffee shop, it knows I want brunch. It knows I want coffee with designs and little cats drawn on it, and like I don't want the really lame ass like coffee cups. Like, dude, like fancy just for everyone's benefit. Like, literally, little tip by the way, like. If you go to like shops that have like custom artwork and stuff, it's probably a nicer coffee, right? But like my model would know that. So it's like it's got pre-context built into it. And when you solve for that problem, it's almost like you built this like synergy with I know that word got outlawed 10 years ago, but you built this like
let's circle back to that.
So well, let me just put a pin in that for a minute. You get this like relationship with it that like I should relationship like carefully, but it just kind of it's like it's fit like hand to a glove type of thing. Whereas like that's why I want stored context to increase massively. Like the best app for conversations AI I found at the moment. We didn't talk about ChatGPT chat as ass right now, right? Like just being frank about it is not good. It's like we talked about last week. It's throttling its token limit. The only way around that, by the way, is like record a message, send it, and then play the message it sends back to you. And like, that's the only way you're going to get a full answer out of this thing. But if you have a actual live conversational thing that solves the context problem, you can obviously build NA10 agents really easily. But I think if you're doing consumer level, I really think that is like the next level of experience, dude. 100%.
Yeah. Speaking of which, should we have a chance to chat about the new ChatGPT update, the voice one? I feel like we did maybe a little bit, or I was talking to somebody that was vaguely shaped like you with big muscles. The ChatGPT voice feature got an update recently, and now they have like ums and ahs and pauses, and it's just a lot more organic.
The breathy
ScarJo energy. Can we talk about that?
Dude, we may have touched on it, but I've since experienced it. Is that the one where she kind of like it's like the words are kind of just trying to finish the sentence, and they can never quite get the sentence out?
Oh, it's a she now. Yes, it's a she now, is what you're saying. Because I remember a couple weeks ago it was a he.
It was a he. I will say I did flirt with the she. I'm mostly where I'm at right now, actually. Oh no, I moved him back. I moved it back, dude. I tried her out. Her out, but I
gave her the old test spin.
Dude, just not enough for Jack. Dude, we had a little chat. We just weren't vibing the right levels, man. So I don't know what that says about me or my conversations, but
you know what it made me feel like? It made me feel like I was listening to somebody that was I was listening to a news anchor. It said, and the most important thing is this and that and that. And that, like, it felt like somebody was reading from a teleprompter and they were using like their pauses and breaths to like slow themselves down. You got that as well?
He's like, and then just do the thing. it's kind of like it's like she doesn't want to be in the conversation. It's kind of like, and I get it because they're trying to opt, like they don't want it yapping on, right? They want like it's biased towards just finishing the chat. I've noticed, and so it's tough to get like a good meaningful conversation with this thing.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. They should offer a mode for people like us, lonely people. They should offer a mode for lonely people
Really.
where it just continues talking.
I just wanted to keep yapping, but you know, the other end of the spectrum, you have Sesame AI that will not stop yapping, and that's gone too far the other direction. Where like you're like, if she says something like, "Oh, that's a really good point. Let me think about that," and she's like, "Ah, are you gonna start talking yet?" Like I was like, "No, I'm just thinking. Just give me a second." And she's like, and then they cut you off at 5 minutes. They cut you off at the kneecaps. Basically. So,
It's so freaking point. Oh, sorry, we have to stop talking now. I'm like, excuse me. I was in the middle of something. I felt like a
that
number.
I do feel like a number actually, Nick. I feel like I'm being treated a bit like a number in these conversations, and I'm tired of it, quite frankly. Dude, one geographical thing I want to touch on actually, like, is Dubai and well, UAE and Dubai in general have put out that they want to be the AI capital of the world. I don't know if we touched on a subject or not, but the idea that they want to be what London was for finance, they want to be that for AI, and I think that's worth thinking about because Dubai was a desert 30 years ago. So the momentum and change is really interesting. But like that does make me wonder, like, what would that look like? Like if you think of like pace of AI technology, right? Development, there's this view that in so many years' time, we're either going to be running on like, yeah, the two giants are America and China, right? That's all the AI infrastructure. What are we going to be running on? When we have, you know, assuming there is you subscribe to the idea that there is a AI breakthrough that just changes the game. What does it mean for a country to be further ahead? Because they give ChatGPT out to everybody in Dubai. So I like the way that they're thinking about it, integrating it into the systems, and they're very quick getting stuff done. So when I head over there in a few months' time, who knows? Maybe the cars are AI driven. I don't know the specifics, but I like the initiative because it kind of feels like an entrepreneurial. Like we want to be the best AI. I like the vibe with that. I must admit.
Yeah, no, I get why it's so attractive. Also, I think there's a difference between being like a producer of AI and then being somebody that like implements it and integrates it. You know, think about the number of regulatory challenges involved in, let's say, rolling out AI at the entire like municipal, provincial, regional, federal stack in the UK or something. I mean, that would take eons, you know, from job displacement to everything else. It would take 120 years. It's the same reason why, I don't know if you've seen this little graphic, but you know, it's about the Golden Gate Bridge in San Fran, and it's like it took 7 years to build the Golden Gate Bridge back in like the 1900s or late 1800s or something, and it cost the equivalent of like $700 million today. Well, it took 20 years or something to build the nets under the Golden Gate Bridge, and it costs $7 billion today. And like the reason why isn't because like we've lost engineering knowledge. The reason why is simply because there's so many more regulatory hurdles in place. So I don't think it's necessarily about like having the best AI infra and having like all the models and stuff like that stored in Dubai, but it's executing. It's taking that technology and it's like, okay, great. So we actually have the technology. Just like 30 years ago, it was a desert. Let's just pretend our whole municipal federal government, like all of the functions of a government are also a desert, and like let's just build it totally new.
Dude, that is beautifully said because it's the same with all things. There's no restriction on ideas. It's just execution. It's not about finding it, it's about executing it. Dude, I love that. I really love that. It's like you know, it's like government. It's like, you know, Roy Sutton talks this idea about not worshipping the ROI god. This idea that doing things that don't have an immediate and definitive return on investment is a positive thing. You can do it because your gut, you think it's right. Like the example he uses is a delivery company in the UK gives away a bear to a child if they're there. You can't contribute that to high gross sales from the customer, but it probably does something positive. My argument is the UK should invest in good design. Like, I was driving through France yesterday, and every time you get to a new city, Nick, there's this big, beautiful sign that has it's like a really beautiful design sign of what the city looks like it's key architecture. I'm like, that's so gorgeous. Like the UK wouldn't do that because it's like, well, we don't need to do that. It's like, well, no, you don't. But like I had to get Dexter like a dog passport. Like, wouldn't it be cool if they had like they just did stuff because it was fun and looked good, like a photo of him, like that'd be really cute. Like it's just like we had like governments aren't run like businesses, unfortunately, and I think it's like you really lose some magic with that. And if it just did stuff like that, I think it'd be really cool. I mean, they get enough in tax revenue. They should look at it. But
I think about this too, and it's probably like one of the more progressive opinions that I hold. I used to live in Vancouver, BC, and I used to like just totally take it for granted. But Vancouver, BC is gorgeous. You go to the downtown core and there's just art installations. There's just like poetry written on walls. There's like cool decals and murals. And everywhere you go, you feel like you're in some freaking unfolding poem, and it's amazing. And then I moved out to Calgary, Alberta, which, you know, a lot of people consider a lot more fiscally tight and responsible, which I do as well. I think their fiscal policy, provincial level is just much better than that of British Columbia. Regardless, had to get my piece in for the Albertans in the chat. But regardless, it's like the downtown core is like, in many ways, like offensive, dude. It's like scary. It's like brutalist architecture. There's no light, no love, no art, cement everywhere, not a single smile to be seen or had. And the reason why is because in Vancouver, there's actually like a piece of top-down regulation which says like if you try and build a big skyscraper, you need to set aside a percentage of the budget for like art to enrich the lives of the people that are going to be using it like publicly, like walking around and stuff. And you know, like me younger, I was like, that's the dumbest shit ever. Damn, commies trying to take my money. But I kind of do understand it. Now, it sounds like what you're chatting about here. I don't know. Is it like top-down government stuff? I don't know if it's just like, you know, the Parisians or French people's predisposition to wanting a more enriched and artful life. But I think that type of shit is really important, even though it doesn't deliver a direct ROI in the short term.
it is. I couldn't agree. I think that's a beautiful bow to wrap around this conversation. ROI and Chinese videos.
Man.
Hell yeah, man. Dude, thank you very much, Jack. Appreciate it as always. Looking forward to next.
Dude, 100%, man. Thank you very much. Catch you next one, Brisky.